Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here, and I am going to talk about what if right now. So, hey guys, it's your pal Victor here, and the fine folks over at Marvel and Disney Plus were kind enough to send us the first 3 episodes of their new show, What If, to watch and review before the debut of the show on August 11th at 12 midnight Wednesday on Disney Plus. And I was always like a big fan of the whole idea of what if from when I was a kid reading comic books. There's like the whole idea of like, what if Magneto founded the X-Men instead of like Professor Xavier, or like, whole what if storylines like the Age of Apocalypse, or Executioner Song, or like, what if Legion killed Charles Xavier and then Magneto formed the X-Men, and then all kinds of fun stuff like that. Like, what if when Uncle Ben died, Peter Parker became the Punisher instead of Spider-Man, There's all these fun little wrinkles that could have happened that changed the destiny of these characters, and it was cool having a comic book show that kind of like explored that. Like, that's really awesome, like you could see how other characters would have reacted to them. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends and allies, and by and large that's kind of like what if is about. I think nowadays most comic book fans, most Marvel fans are more fans of the Marvel movies than they are of like comic books. And there's lots of reasons that, that can be blamed on, the way people consume media nowadays, or just all kinds of like, different, movies are kind of like the equivalent of what comic books were to kids nowadays versus people my age, so yeah, movies are the new comic books. So, and like the whole MCU saga is this whole elaborate comic book mythology. So seeing an animated show kind of like take on that aspect, like, as this show explains, like, like what if Peggy Carter became Captain America instead of Steve Rogers? Or, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord instead of the Black Panther? That's kind of like an interesting idea, and seeing how that would have affected the films of the Marvel Universe is kind of awesome. And I think one of the reasons that this show's really going to take off with people is the fact that they've got most of the original actors from the MCU reprising their roles. And some, from what we've seen, and we're not going to spoil it, some of these actors come back literally just to do 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in a little, essential, like, credit stinger type scenario. And I think that's awesome. It just shows you how much love they have. And some just come in a completely new way with a character we think we know, but might have known differently if only this had happened. But I think that's awesome. Honestly, my favorite episode of the 3 is the one we'll get into more next week, which is what if T'Challa became Star-Lord. But this week's episode, the first episode, is what if Peggy Carter became Captain America. And the way that this episode does this, I'm not going to get into spoilers, because honestly I think this show is really so good that the least going in the better. The reason the show really works is like it takes these characters and follows through on their their driving force, and if placed in a different type of role, they'll still be that character but in a different way. And this is really true with both Peggy becoming a Captain America like character, and Steve Rogers having to use that desire to serve, to end the war and go out there and be one of the boys in uniform, how that would influence him if he didn't become Captain America in a really believable way, and seeing how his and Peggy's relationship develops outside of that is really unique and interesting. And seeing who the villain of Captain America the First Avenger might have been if Steve wasn't there to do things his way, and the events, the way he was treated once he took the super soldier serum was different, because Peggy could have been treated differently as well, and that might have led to different circumstances, and it kind of does here. And it ultimately leads to a whole different villain for the first Avenger, which is some people are going to be like wondering who it is, and some longtime Marvel fans are going to be like, oh wow, that's really cool and a neat deep cut. So that's kind of how I felt about it, and I thought the episode was great, and my second favorite episode of the three we were allowed to watch. But ultimately, I think it works. The show works because Jeffrey Wright lends the show a lot of gravitas as Uatu the Watcher, in a fit, one of the really big Fox characters that Fox had under its purview, that's made its debut into the MCU now, and he's great. And I think getting all the actors back and the animation style is really cool. It's kind of like reminiscent of like the 40s Superman Max Fleischer animated shorts, because it's 3D cell shaded, so it almost has this rotoscope vibe to it, and you see like these animated shots that look right out of the movie but twinged differently. So that's my take on What If. Check it out. It debuts this week. We're going to be having watch parties for it. We'll have a full spoiler Easter egg breakdown after the show is over, so tune into that, and I hope you enjoy this little peek at What If. If you enjoy the talks like this and videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and we will talk to you later. Thanks.